Gopi Janavallabha Kirvanadari
Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari
Jai Gopi Janavallabha
Yashodanandana Vraja Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari
Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Janavallabha Kirvanadari
Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Janavallabha Kirvanadari
Yashodanandana Vraja Yashodanandana Vraja Jamuna Tira Vanachariya Jamuna Tira Vanachariya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jayom Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Pavarijanakarya Ashtottara Shata Sri Srimad Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Skanda Sanstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Pavarijanakarya Ashtottara Shata Sri Srimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Sri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinata Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we are reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and we will also read from Srimad Bhagavatam. So translation is simultaneous. You don't have to worry about it. Huh? It's back? Okay. Anyway, so I told them, put this a little bit down or take out the high frequencies, one of the two. So we will be reading from a section. You have to train up your sound, people. India, unifying ISKCON. So this is referring to 1976 in Mayapur festival, which means 43 years ago. Now we were both there, so I invited Dharmatma Prabhu to also speak about this incident, which is actually one of them. Well, how can we say, something everybody remembers, because it was, as you will see, a very crucial moment in ISKCON's history. So I'll explain why, and he will also explain why. So I will read. Can't do this? I will give you a course today about how to treat. Now it's practically gone. So take a course in how to use a mixer. So I've been told, well, to continue here, but I will go back half a page just to get us into the situation. So the situation is Mayapur Festival 1976 is about to begin, and different senior devotees arrive in Mayapur because they have some agenda. They want to speak to Prabhupada, and actually they want to get Prabhupada to make a statement about relationship between sannyasis, brahmacharis, and grihastas, and ladies and children. So we'll see what this is all about. And it was pushed primarily by the leaders of what was then the Radha Damodar Sankirtan party. You may have heard about that. You have some explanation what it was?
Primarily Tamal Krishna Maharaj.
Well, I didn't want to mention any names.
Okay.
But anyway, it doesn't matter, yes. So when do they start? What were they doing? Can you tell us something about the Radha Damodar party?
Well, Radha Damodar was basically founded by Vishnujan Maharaj, who took brahmacharis. In the beginning, it was only a few brahmacharis in one bus. And I had the fortune of traveling alongside him because I also had one bus, which when I came to New Vrindavan in 1973, I came from Vancouver Temple, and there was Ridha Prabhu, who is from South Africa. You probably heard of him. And one Ganapati, who now is Ganapati Swami. And they were on the traveling party. So we saw this bus, and we said, well, Vishnu Jan Swami has one. Let's do the same thing. We can travel all over the country, chanting and distributing books. So we were fortunate to travel many times with Vishnu Jan, but his program was really amazing, mainly because of him. He was such an empowered devotee. He could come somewhere and start chanting Hare Krishna, and people would just flock to him. If you read the wonderful book by Vyasaki, Radha Damodar Vilas, there's many, many wonderful stories about Vishnu Jan and the traveling parties. But he traveled all across the United States, making devotees and spreading the holy name, doing wonderful programs. We traveled one time. There was they have these state fairs, like a big festival. Each state has one in the United States. So he would get permission to come and set up a booth, and he would bring Radha Damodar out and make a beautiful altar, and we would chant Hare Krishna and distribute books. And he trained his brahmacharis up to play wonderful musical instruments. So this party was famous, and primarily because of Maharaj's wonderful, loving mood. I remember one time in Chicago, his bus had a problem, or they had a fire, and Kirtanananda, at that time Maharaj, was going to India. So he asked Vishnu Jan Maharaj to come and take care of all the devotees while he was away. So he traveled in our bus from Chicago all the way to New Vrindavan. And the whole time, I don't think there was, outside of a few hours sleeping, the entire time he was chanting beautiful bhajans and the harmonium. And I remember I would be driving the bus, and he would be sitting next to me, chanting and reading just to keep me awake on the long drives. The program was very sweet. And then later on, because he was very good friends with Tamal Krishna, they were both together in the hippie commune in California, and that's how they both joined. So at one point, I don't know the history of it, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj joined up with Vishnu Jan. Then the whole mood changed, because Tamal Krishna Maharaj was a real gung-ho, like Sankirtan leader, right? You all probably know of one of those type of Sankirtan leaders. So the whole mood became different. It was about distributing tons of books and collecting a lot of money. And the many brahmacharis were joining. Even when they went from temple to temple, sometimes the brahmacharis were so enlivened that they would run away from the temple and join Radha Damodar.
Well, that's where the problem started.
Right. So that Maharaj can go on further from that.
That's where the problem started, because they really actively were telling practically everybody, temple is Maya, so you're all in Maya. For a brahmachari practically to stay in the temple is Maya, because sooner or later they will become married. That was the conception, yes, and then they will just, become useless. So that preaching was going on, and then it came to Mayapur, because most of the temple presidents were grahastas, isn't it?
At that time, yes, quite a few. Yeah, most of them.
Most of them. Yeah. That was Prabhupada's program was, he would send, as you may have read in the Lamrita and in other of the biographies, whenever a devotee was, even when they were not so much like learned or steady, he would send them to open another temple. Even when they were very new devotees or a new couple, they would send them to another city and just make a new temple. And then they would take care of the temple, as they did with the 3 couples who went to London, you remember. And then they started practically the whole preaching in England and other places. So most of the temple presidents were grihastas, And then the Radha Damodar party would come into town. That was very good. They distribute books, but then when they were coming to the temple, they were telling the brahmacharis, don't stay here. Come with us. Very beautiful, we go all over the place and this and that. And so, as you said, many of them just were running away. Suddenly, your cook disappeared. Just imagine, or no more pujari because he is gone with Radha Damodar, Sankirtan party, without asking. So it became a high tension affair.
Big issue.
Big issue. Yeah. So this happened now in Mayapur. This came to the head, and everybody was expecting from Prabhupada to practically say, yes, this is very good. Radha Damodar is right. The temples are Maya, and so we'll see what happened here. So let's see. Well, here's something about the. Let's see where I'm supposed to continue reading. We have to get into the situation that. Srila Prabhupada is speaking about, well, I'm going to read this paragraph again. As the festival drew near, some of the sannyasis arrived, hoping to associate more intimately with Srila Prabhupada before the flood of devotees began. A major topic of discussion among the sannyasis was the controversy of over the role of the Grihastha men in ISKCON. So it was not just, it became a big issue. Grihasthas in ISKCON, and the influence of women and children on the sannyasis and brahmacharis, those in the renounced orders. Some of the sannyasis were suggesting that ISKCON should be more structured to separate the renounced orders and the preachers from the householders. They began airing their view before Srila Prabhupada, who then guided them. So then they are talking about the different ashrams. And Srila Prabhupada's main point was that we shouldn't invent anything new or be guided by one's desires. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Vartate kama karataha. If you act whimsically just because I like it or I want to do this or that, then you're heading for trouble. So then Prabhupada is speaking about the Hira Chora and the Kira Chora. You heard about that. The thief of a diamond and the thief of a cucumber. Everybody is clear what that means? The idea is to steal a cucumber is practically nothing. It's only a cucumber, no value. But to steal a diamond is a big crime. You go, probably for stealing cucumber you don't go to jail, but if you steal a diamond you'll go to jail. But Prabhupada's point was, so actually the stealing propensity is there. Doesn't matter whether it's only a cucumber or a diamond. Your mentality, I want to take something which is not mine. So it's a stealing propensity. So that comparison is that the Grihastha life is like stealing a kira, a cucumber. So, and those who go after prostitutes, they're supposed to be the Hira choras, the diamond thieves. Anyway, so then the whole topic became about, and it was Hari Shauri who was asking about artificial renunciation, which is another thing. Those who were pushing that, we want to be separate, sannyasis and brahmacharis, from the grihasthas and women and children. History has shown that many of those later have difficulty and fell down and themselves became married and all that. Anyway, so now one of the grihasthas, because Hari Sauri was a grihastha at the time, he is asking about artificial renunciation. And Prabhupada says, renunciation is not artificial, it is a process. We have to give up sense gratification. So, go through a process to turn. Like sometimes in a health club, there's artificial swimming. Swimming, is it not? like when you just do exercise without water. Artificial swimming is not actually swimming, but it is to practice. So then another Grihastha, Dayananda, he is asking, but sometimes people who renounce, they become very proud, which yes, we have experienced, especially maybe in those days. The sannyasis were known for being a little bit arrogant. So how is that to be understood? So Prabhupada continued to reply that renunciation had to be actually practiced. Everyone must, now come a few statements that everybody should take very seriously. Everyone must attend the Mangal Artik, he said. One must attend this. Otherwise, no prasadam. Yeah. If you are too sick, then also you should not eat. There should not be sleeping at the time of Mangalarti because he says he's sick. I don't feel well, so I have to sleep. Then at the time of prasadam, voracious eating. No. So if the if the devotees were looking for Prabhupada to make an absolute distinction between Grihastha and Sannyasi, it was not there. He wouldn't do that. He emphasized rather that actual quality and the practice of the individual devotee, these were the important points. So then there was a morning walk, and Hridayananda Maharaj, he summarized some talks the sannyasis had amongst themselves. And he said, we were thinking that it would be nice to have the city centers for the preachers, sannyasis, brahmacharis, and the women and children, they can go to the farms. There they can do a little work and produce their own food. So Prabhupada, yes, farms they can live and do some handwork. And then another sannyasi, he says, Guru Kripa Swami, but they won't do it, Prabhupada. So that means they would just, live there and don't do anything. So then you don't allow, Prabhupada says. If they do not follow the rules and regulations, then what is the use? Another sannyasi said that when many householders came together in big communities, an atmosphere of laziness developed. Whereas when lots of brahmacharis were preaching together, it was more enlivening. So how is it here? How is the Grihastha community? Are they lazy? They're doing well. What about the brahmacharis? So that is good news. But the experience was, and well, then you are very fortunate because I'm traveling to many places in the world, and you are also traveling. So now you have to be honest, we will be honest. I've been a Grihastha. So it is a fact, I think, that there's a tendency if you live with your family life, that you may not be so much inclined to get up very early and go to Mangal Artik. Isn't it?
We see that happening, yes.
We see that happening. I definitely can say that we see that happening. Maybe only in the West, maybe not in India. Is it? I think it's universal anyway. So, but Prabhupada then answered, he said, everyone should be engaged. No idle life. Not just, we never encourage laziness. If we maintain lazy men, then everything will be spoiled. So then another devotee, he said, I heard, Prabhupada, that you said that our society is not a love-making society. But these things are going on. So, referring to an impropriety of two of his disciples, Prabhupada replied, yes, I've seen it in Vrindavan, but Western devotees. I know the story. I'm not going to tell any names. Then other complaints came. One leader argued that the temple should not have to carry the burden of maintaining women with children but no husbands. So this is a universal problem, even in those days. We're talking about 43 years ago. Nowadays, it's even worse, I think. there's so many single mothers, right? Single parent, which is like accepted practically, you know, in America, single parent, it's not a big thing.
In Western culture,
it's like normal. So another complaint was that brahmacharis, by selling books, were in effect supporting the householders. I know that this was definitely an issue in some temples, even after Prabhupada left, that in one temple, for example, deity worship was going on and some farming and so many other services. And most of those who were doing those services were married. They were grihastas with their wife and children. And the money to maintain the whole project were coming from the Sankirtan. So we had, I'm not going to say what country, there were so many Sankirtan parties and there was so much money generated and that it was distributed. And a good amount went to a place where there were many, many grihastas, and practically their lifestyle was supported by the income coming from the book distribution. So this is in America probably was also like that in some places. So that was a big complaint. Then Prabhupada continued to reply in a philosophical and practical way that whatever discrepancies were present should be rectified. And later he would say that the GBC should deal with this. So sense gratification, laziness, and a failure to attend the temple programs should not be tolerated. And this is another problem. Probably not here, but again, I'm referring to other places. That you have the situation that certain devotees who are doing certain services, which are important, but they don't attend the temple program practically at all. But you don't say anything because you need their service. You have some experience of this? Yes. So it's also universal then. So, and the question, what to do? Huh? What to do? What would you do? You're a temple president.
Actually, I was at one time. I think it depends on the quality of the leadership. If leadership is showing the example, like Srila Prabhupada showed the perfect example, and we all followed. We didn't even consider doing anything differently. And but in terms of, we know what Prabhupada's instructions are, and if we're always considering everything we do from the viewpoint of will Srila Prabhupada be pleased, then we'll follow those instructions. And if the leaders are following, then it's much easier. I can say a few words about grihastas, like in New Vrindavan. It was a little isolated from the rest of ISKCON, but we had many grihastas. It was mostly grihastas, a few disciples. I mean, Radhanath Swami was a brahmachari there, and there was a group of brahmacharis. They lived separate, in a separate farm, and they would come once a week to the Sunday feast, the brahmacharis. And that was their only association with the grihastas. But he was dependent on the grihastas, and many worked very, very hard. There was no question of not coming to Mangal Artik. I remember my wife had baby at 8 o'clock at night, and she came to the Mangal Artik the next morning with the baby. But that was the standard. That's what everyone did, because we knew we had to come to Mangal Artik. So, like Srila Prabhupada is saying, no one should be lazy, you know, so.
And that's 43 years ago.
Yes.
So today, this is definitely, at least in my experience, is not like that, because even in a place where the leaders are in the morning program, still so many others don't go. So anyway, we can think about what to do. Not much, I think not much you can do, unless you want to close down temples. It's difficult, very difficult. So shortly after his arrival in Mayapur, Prabhupada had addressed a similar issue in his own correspondence. A Mr. Chatterjee had written from Calcutta to say that he was preaching worship of Lord Chaitanya. and was eager to show Srila Prabhupada some articles he had written. Mr. Chatterjee stated, "My theme is, we can get to see our God, Gauranga, by taking sannyas. Those who are grihastas reach to the Godhead through Nam Sankirtan." So Srila Prabhupada encouraged the man with a reply, "Your theme is okay, but there were many devotees of Lord Chaitanya like Advaita Acharya and even Lord Nityananda who were grihastas. Lord Chaitanya left his grihasta life. It is a matter of understanding Krishna. That is the real qualification. Whether one is grihasta or sannyasi, how well he knows Krishna. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung, "Grihe ba bone take, he gauranga bole dake." Lord Chaitanya says, "Kiba vipra kiba nyasi shudra kene noi, yei Krishna tattva veta sei guru hoy." So please come and we shall discuss your articles. So this, of course, Prabhupada many times would point this out, that the external circumstance, grihasta or sannyasi or brahmachari, this is all secondary. Ultimately, it's a matter of understanding Krishna or being engaged in Krishna's service, and therefore the acharyas, and that's not the only time, here in this song Narottam Das Thakur says like this, that it doesn't matter whether one is in the renounced order or one is living with the family. If he is a surrendered devotee of the Lord, he would say, I'm longing for his association. So this is one of the, actually we could say this is one of the extraordinary features of Srila Prabhupada, that he wouldn't, like here they try to get him to say something specific, this is better or this is not good, and make separation. And Prabhupada, he saw the danger. If he would have done this, maybe ISKCON wouldn't exist as we have it today, isn't it?
It would have been a disaster.
It would have been a disaster. Then the Acharya would have said, yes, grihastas are practically useless, and women and children are secondary, and only sannyasis and brahmacharis are, basically devotees in good standing. So that would have been, but he never did this. And as we can see here, his reply, and in other places in his books also, he would always point out that all this is not so important. And I remember there were quite a few letters. In those days, we were all very young. That's, first of all, you should understand. It's not like today. Today you have so many devotees from practically a baby from 1 day old until, almost 100-year-old somebody somewhere, right? So in those days, the 90+% of devotees' age was between 20 and 30.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and if you were over 30, you were considered to be an old man. It's fact. So, like one of the oldest, Satrup Maharaj, he's now this year becoming 80. 80, yes. So in 76 he was 29. He was really old.
Yeah.
Because, 29 or maybe 39. Let's see. It's 37.
76,
37
yeah.
to 76. 39, right? Or 30, yeah,
39, yeah.
39. That was really old. I was 25. How old were you?
When I joined?
No, 76.
I was 29.
So you were old also, almost.
I'm 75.
So that's really old. But no, anyway, at this time everybody was very young, and so some of those who were grihastas, they were really trying to become a sannyasi prematurely, just because, yes, there was this prejudice against householders, and all the worship and respect went to the sannyasis, and then Prabhupada would have to say in a letter, actually you are more than a sannyasi, because you are fully engaged in Krishna's service, just to pacify that person who was very ambitious to become.
He also said one time, you can tell me where, Srila Prabhupada said that a grihasta living with a beautiful wife is more than sannyasi. Grihastha who is living with a beautiful wife who's following all the process is more than sannyasi, because he has that temptation there, but it doesn't affect him, and he's just focused on serving Krishna. So amazing.
So, as I said, and we have some time, I wanted to also read something from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is in connection with this. And that is the story of Gajendra the elephant and the crocodile. This purport was also written in 1976. And it was written when one of those sannyasis actually left the ashram and went away. And anyway, so then many of you, some of you, those know this purport, I think, very famous purport. So it is about the elephant who's losing strength in the fight because he's in the water. So therefore, Prabhupada says in the purport, Srimad Bhagavatam, let's read the verse. Tato gajendrasya mano balau jasam kalena dirghena mahan abut vyayaha vikrishyamanasya jale vasidato viparyayo bhut sakalang jalaukasaha. Because of being pulled into the water and fighting for many long years, the elephant became diminished in his mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual power. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In the fighting between the elephant and the crocodile, the difference was that although the elephant was extremely powerful, he was in a foreign place, in the water. During 1,000 years of fighting, he could not get any food, and under the circumstances, his bodily strength diminished. And because his bodily strength diminished, his mind became weak and his senses less powerful. And the crocodile, being an animal of the water, had no difficulties. He was getting food and was therefore getting mental strength and sensual encouragement. Thus, while the elephant became reduced in strength, the crocodile became more and more powerful. Now, from this, we may take the lesson that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. Our Krishna consciousness movement has actually declared war against the illusory energy in which all the living entities are rotting in a false understanding of civilization. The soldiers in this Krishna consciousness movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. To keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. What constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone. And therefore there are divisions of Varnashram: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Especially in this age of Kali, it is advised not to take sannyas. Then he quotes from Brahma Bharata Purana. From this we can understand that in this age the sannyasa ashram is forbidden because people are not strong. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us an example in taking sannyas at the age of 24 years. But even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be extremely careful because he had taken sannyas at an early age. Therefore I took sannyas when I was old. If I would have taken sannyas at an early age, I wouldn't sit here. So for preaching, we give young boys sannyas. So, of course, from Prabhupada's point of view, 20-something olds are young boys. That's now my, how old are you? 28, old man, but for me, almost my grandson, so, so anyway, we are giving young boys sannyas, but it is experienced they are not fit for sannyas. There is no harm, however, if one thinks that he is unfit for sannyas. If he is very much agitated sexually, he should go to the ashram where sex is allowed, namely the Grihastha ashram. That one has to be found weak in one place does not mean he should stop fighting the crocodile of Maya. One should take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna as we shall see Gajendra does. And at the same time, one can be a grihastha if he's satisfied with sexual indulgence. There's no need to give up the fight. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore recommended stanistita shruti gatam tanuvan manobhi. One may stay in whichever ashram is suitable for him. It is not essential that one takes sannyas. If one is sexually agitated, he can enter the grihastha ashram. But one must continue fighting. For one who is not in a transcendental position to take sannyas artificially is not a very great credit. If sannyas is not suitable, one may enter the grihastha ashram and fight Maya with great strength. But one should not give up the fighting and go away. So Prabhupada was very practical. Sometimes he would also speak quite strongly about how grihastha life is not very favorable for developing Krishna consciousness. There are so many temptations and obstacles. At the same time, if it's a question one will go away and stop the process, then better one goes to a place where one feels comfortable and then continue fighting. So he would not get into this argument and pronounce himself being a sannyasi, one may say, in favor of the sannyasis and brahmacharis, and then completely discredit all the married men and their wives and children. That would have practically divided the society, and who knows? Well, fortunately, he didn't do that. So any questions or comments from your side? Oh.
Maharaj, would it be advantageous if a brahmachari is having some difficulty in a temple to want to go in? There's programs where brahmacharis, like Harinam Ruchi, you probably know about Harinam Ruchi party, right? They're a group of brahmacharis and a couple of grihastha men that travel all over the world, and they're chanting Hare Krishna from 3 to 6 hours a day on the street, distributing books.
Yeah.
And many brahmacharis come and join, and they say, I've never been so enlivened in my life.
Right.
So
you joined.
Yes, and I've never been so enlivened in my life, you're right. But sometimes brahmacharis, and these parties exist, like in America, Danavir Swami has a group of men that travel, and it was like the old days, right? So they want to have that extra association, and maybe they won't have to get married, you know.
Well, that's definitely worth trying that, because Sangat Sanjayate Kama, our desires develop by association. So if one, well, we could say if you live in a place where there's many material comforts and facilities, one may get into the tendency of becoming, you know, kind of lazy in one sense, or then the brahmachari wants to have, I don't want to get into all the details, you know, something that resembles in one sense a grihastha situation. And the austerity becomes practically non-existent, and so many facilities one is using, maybe money is coming. I mean, if I see a brahmachari with gold chains and rings and stuff, you may wonder, you know, if he's in the right ashram, or with, you know, very expensive, whatever it may be. So this is all for Krishna's service. You know, this is very tricky. One has to be really honest. If it's really necessary to have a cashmere sweater and a silk chadar as a brahmachari and use it in Krishna's service. You may, if it's a very specific service, but generally it means a simple life. So if one sees that I'm becoming like weak by associating in a certain way, then maybe going to a different program where it's just traveling and you don't have time to get, how you say, comfortable in one place, then that may be that may be helpful, definitely. Yeah, to move around most of the time is a good thing.
Of course, here, look at all the brahmacharis.
Yeah.
This is wonderful to come to a temple and see so many brahmacharis. You don't see this in the West.
No.
You're lucky, like, I think Alachua, there was one left, one brahmachari, and he just recently left his body. And he had a big smile on his face when he left. So,
yeah, definitely a fact. So here, how many brahmacharis you have here? 160. 160. How many grihastas? 50 and 200. Full time. But they're living outside the temple area, just nearby. So what is your experience of who's coming to the program in the morning? Is it a fact as as it was? That is just like that. So what can you say? It's just like that, with exceptions. There's always exceptions, but generally the tendency is to become a little lazy. Lazy, that word means, you're not like...
the company Nike, right? Their motto is just do it, right? So I saw one time, it was primarily meant for the grihastas, right? Because they gave a whole list of excuses, Oh, my baby's sick. Oh, I've got a headache. Oh, I've got to cook for my husband. All these things, Then at the bottom, it says, come to Mangalartik at the top, and then there was all these excuses. Then at the bottom it said, just do it. So, but Maharaj is right, because we see that, I mean, even myself for a period of time, I was, struggling to raise a family with 6 children. So I had to work a lot, an outside job. And so sometimes it was very difficult.
It is difficult. I mean, there's no question about it. It is difficult. And therefore, if you can avoid it, even you will recommend avoid it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You will not say, no, this is fantastic, just look at me.
I always felt guilty. Yeah.
But if you can't, that's the other side, then don't artificially, I don't know, and then go away, because then you become so frustrated. So then one should put himself in the place where one gets the strength to continue. But if it's possible, it's definitely a much easier lifestyle, and it's more, I mean, Prabhupada, you said in one class, 75% liberated, right? He said that.
75.
75 or 50, I think 75. So if one can remain as a brahmachari in a brahmachari lifestyle, then 75% liberated. I mean, so many problems you can avoid. That's no question. I mean, I've been married. He is still, but practically vanaprastha, probably, because your children are all grown up, right? No more babies in the house.
God, no.
No, it's a big, and that's another thing. Then you have to be very responsible. The worst thing is irresponsible grihastas. You just want to have some sex. Then you have children, but then it becomes a burden. And then you become renounced. And Prabhupada was very heavy about this, because that happened already also in those days. Somebody took that step, became married, then they had a child or two, and then he realized, oh my God, this means now I have to work. I don't want that. So now I become renounced. I want to take sannyas, and the wife can just depend on the mercy of the Lord. And Prabhupada became very heavy. No, you have to be responsible. That means for a long period of time. If it's a girl, then maybe for 20, 25 years until they get married, it's your responsibility. You can't just walk out. Then you'll get heavy reactions. So before you take that step, think about it. It means, to be responsible, maybe have to work very hard and this and that, and then the side for spiritual, or the time even for purely spiritual activity becomes a little compromised, a little less, and it becomes more difficult. That's no question about it.
Like Maharaj said, association is so important.
Association is key.
It doesn't matter what ashram you're in. The most important thing is association. You associate with, there's one saying that if you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? Because you want to be in a room where everybody else is smarter than you, and they'll help you raise your level. So this is why you probably have here like a mentoring program, senior brahmacharis that take care of the others. It's a wonderful program. They have it in the Bhaktivedanta Manor, and I know Radhanath Swami has it at Chaupati, and it works wonders. And not only, even in the materialists, they have this program.
Yeah.
They, you know.
Well, Prabhupada said, you know, he actually founded ISKCON on this principle of giving association. So that people come and they have the opportunity to meet sadhus, to be with them, to hear about Krishna, be engaged in some service. And he said, like in the material world, people do this. They have a club for playing golf. They have a club for, if they're businessmen, they get together and talk about business. So we are doing the same. We talk about Krishna and we want to help each other how to become more Krishna conscious. That's how it works. So association is sadhu sangha, sarva shastra koi. Lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. All perfection will come. Even lava matra means 1/11th part of a second. It's a very brief moment. Even that can be sufficient just to get you on the right track. So you're very fortunate. Keep on going. Jitamrita Prabhu, give us some enlightening comment. Oh, the sound man. You have to take a course. He just doesn't know. Anyway. I think it will work now. Just keep it a little farther away. Not too close. Anyway.
So Maharaj, the point as you made, this is a real point, that we need the service of those devotees who do not come to morning program.
Yes.
And we need their service and they are not coming in morning program. When they are not coming in morning program, then they are not getting association. So this is our association. Yeah. And they come and they are enlivened or they are encouraged. But when they are not coming in morning program and we need their service, then what to do?
What to do, yeah. And at least they do service. I mean, worst scenario, if you have people depending on the temple, they don't come to the program, and they don't do any service. That Prabhupada definitely was saying, no, don't tolerate that. At least you work. Then you become maybe purified in time, and then you can, well, maybe once a week you can come to the program on Sunday. Something. I mean, somehow they try to help them, you know. Anyway, so anything else?
One thing we heard that Vishnujan Swami committed suicide. What about this incident?
We don't have to get into this. Why do you ask?
Only some explanation.
Some explanation. We don't really know. You know, we don't even know whether he committed suicide. There's a lot of speculation. It's not like a fact that has been established. Because he disappeared. And there were some people saying something that, you know, they had seen somebody who could have been him. But there's no definite proof. We just don't know. And, well, we can say something, you know, something we can say. We know the story of Chota Haridas, right? And that had been published 76. No, not yet. Not yet. Hadn't come out. This is early 76.
Srila Prabhupada, in that, when they were walking, there was
He
some
talked
conversation.
about it, yeah. So anyway, the point is that Srila Prabhupada mentioned the story, and he said that the atonement for a sannyasi who, you know, doesn't act properly like that is then, you know, like Chota Haridas, to leave his body voluntarily, to commit suicide. So it looks like, people think, that something had happened to Vishnujan Maharaj, but he hadn't been talking about it. It was nothing known, but it may be something internal, and he just concluded, may have been like this. But then also somebody asked later on if we should do something like that, and Prabhupada said no. It's not that. Then probably we can all just go and commit suicide. So no, that's not, Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya, he gives an example, and at the end of that chapter, there's a list of lessons that Prabhupada says we have to take from this pastime. But, we are not, and Prabhupada said, I'm not in that position, and, he wouldn't. As he said, this purport shows the other way. This sannyasi left, and he also practically disappeared. And because it had been made public, for a long period of time, he practically was going out of ISKCON. And Prabhupada was criticizing those who had spoken publicly about his fall down, that this shouldn't be done. And he said, no, why you go away? And that's what he said. But one should not give up the fighting and go away. Then you just get married. Okay, you were a sannyasi, but you're very young. You couldn't do it. So now you get married, but continue within ISKCON as a devotee and not conclude, oh, I'm so fallen, either I shoot myself or I go away. This is not a solution. Right?
One other example of one sannyasi that fell down, Srila Prabhupada, he did say that, he mentioned that it was like he threw up and ate the vomit, right? But he told him that now you become a real good grihasta and spread Krishna consciousness. See, Prabhupada always encouraged, even though it was disastrous, he was one of the first ones to fall, but Prabhupada encouraged him to continue in his devotional service as a grihasta.
Yeah. Just, because sometimes it's also questioned or criticized why Prabhupada did do this, give sannyas to people who, especially in India, then his god brothers and others criticized him. But we should understand, even just the fact that he did initiate Westerners, even to give them second initiation, that was also being criticized very heavily. What to speak of giving them sannyas? Everything was meant how to spread Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
He said,
even at great risk, you could say. Everybody else, those who were criticized, what have they done? They were just sitting in their temples and, being transcendental. Don't do anything that's questionable. Prabhupada took a great risk. How some other try it. And it is like we have this book now, Chasing Rhinos with the Swami. This is like chasing a rhino. Yeah. You try, if you can do it, then it's wonderful. If not, well, what can be done? It's so difficult anyway. So he tried, and we cannot say it's all completely a failure. There's still sannyasis today who are from day number one. They didn't have any difficulty. Well, even if they had, but they didn't go away, they didn't get married, and they're continuing as sannyasis. So anyway, so he did what he could do in that short period of time under the circumstances. And we are learning also from it. Nowadays, it's much more difficult to take sannyas. I can tell you that. I'm on the committee. So, and we are taking down people. We have a list. And anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But yes, they are being revised. And we have, for this year, we have a whole, more than 1, 2, 3, or 5 that are supposedly will be taken off the list for various reasons. Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada said in those times it was like an emergency. And you have to use incredible measures. Just like on the battlefield, sometimes the leader gets killed, and then there's one young man, he just one of the soldiers, they say, okay, you're the leader now. So they make him the leader, and some of them, they can't do it, and other ones become very, very strong, and they become great leaders. So in an emergency situation. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll stop here. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sisi Gaurnitai, Sisi Radha Parthasarthi, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Bhakti Gauravani Maharaj ki jai.
Dharmatma Prabhu ki jai. Of course I read. I read until After this, actually, Prabhupada is Chatterjee letter till here. Okay.
संडे को
नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने।